Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. And tonight, welcome to our Monday Madness, Monday Monsters, Monday Wierd and Wonderful with my wonderful friend, Steve Stockton. Welcome in, Steve.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Glad to be here. Happy Monday.
Oh, right. Monday Madness, right? But there's so many different things we can talk about tonight. Everybody, when you come in, if you could share and give a like, that would be great. We're trying to get the subs up, and we're almost there. And I would appreciate it so much when you come in if you could do it, and share it if you can. So tonight, Steve, one of the things that I thought today, what scares you the most, what you really don't understand, or what you lose control over, and you don't quite know how to gain that control back. So I know you and I have both had experiences, personal ones, that we had either an encounter with something that gave us like telepathic messages, or even felt ourselves in this kind of lull of something was like hypnotic, or basically that whole fear thing that was just so huge coming at you right from the get-go. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that out there. The most scared I've ever been, though, was probably when I encountered the black-eyed kids.
Yep, I
and
thought
that
so.
was just total irrational fear. I mean, there was two little girls in the parking lot, and yet I've never felt such evil come off anything in my life.
Yeah. And you almost, I hate to take you back to that moment, but since you bring it up, and again, I'll probably, every time Steve talks about this on the show, something happens. There's a knock on my door or some other kind of crazy stuff, especially early in the morning, every time, right, Steve?
Yeah, how about that last episode where we had a Class A EVP in there telling us to be quiet?
That was huge. And God bless, I forgot the listener who found that. Now, the wild thing about that, hi, everybody coming in. Hello, Melissa and Pam Smith and Chris Jarvis and Carrie F. and everybody that's popping in. Thank you so much for coming in. Yeah, it was in the comments, and they said, watch this, specific moment. And the cool thing about it was they watched it live past that point, and then when it replayed, they rewound it and watched it again, and it was there then, but not the first time. I can't explain that. Can you?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything during the taping. It was just in the playback. But we've had that happen before.
Every time.
I remember we were on with Soraya once, and we could hear somebody, a male voice, like talking. We thought it was somebody on his end.
Yep.
And then after the show was over, he's like, "Who was that talking?" And you were in your garage. I was in my studio with Mulder. He was in his studio by himself there at the radio station.
Crazy.
Yet there was a low male voice in the background chattering away while we were on his show. It's stuff like that happens. And we've had we locked his equipment up one time too, and he just let the show run.
Just let it roll.
And we talked for about 2 hours before we realized that he wasn't responding back to us.
What do you think, Zariah? Hello?
Like, Zariah? Maybe he fell asleep.
Yeah, it was funny. Happened? We shut down the whole internet. We talked for like 3-something hours, but that's why we get together, do this. And, again, thanks to everybody in here. Share if you can. Like I said, I'm just trying to get up a couple more subs, and I'll be up to 1,000. And YouTube kind of looks at you like you might be something. I've been on here for years, but we've been up and down and changing channels. And here's my home. So this is where we're staying. And Yeah, that's crazy. A lot of times, that one time we were talking to Kevin Killen, everything went out. The
Yeah.
electric, the laptops, my phone went from 90, I think it was like 98% because I had charged it for the show, and it went down to 0 at the same time. We've had EVPs. I remember the one that was like, help me, help me. And I'm like, who needs help? It's just it makes you sad 'cause you don't know where it's coming from. And of course, if they want to communicate, great. That's one thing Steve and I have always said, though. We don't want to do EVPs in our own house. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know what's there. People do that
I don't want to know.
recorder while they're asleep. No, I don't do it at home. I don't. I know there's stuff here, but I
Yep.
don't want to know any
Mm-hmm.
more about it.
Yep. Because you never know what's going to hit you. But yeah, I thought that would be great. So take you back to the Black Eyed Kids, and I wanted to know, what was the first thing? Did you notice them, visually first, or did you possibly feel something that got your attention?
Well, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was coming out of this business. It was a medical facility, and I was the only one there. I had the keys and the codes and everything, and I was locking it up. So I was, on kind of heightened awareness anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a residential area, or I mean, an industrial area. There weren't any houses or anything around there. And, just it always felt kind of weird, I think, around there at night. But that night it felt weird. And then I saw him sitting over on the curb on the far side of the parking lot. And I thought, this don't seem right. So I'm trying to hurry up, get my stuff in the car and get out of there. And then every time they stood up, and then every time I glanced out, I never actually saw them move. But every time I looked up, they were closer to me. So that's something like out of a horror film or some crap.
It is.
It's like closer.
Yep.
It's like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And only one talked, the one which I assume was the older one. I would say she was maybe 12, and the other one was maybe 10 or something. The taller of the two was talking to the younger one. They never actually spoke to me. I never heard the smaller one speak, but the older one it was like a litany. He won't leave us out here. He'll have to let us in. He'll have to take us. It's cold. It's dark. But it was dark, but it wasn't cold. She kept talking about it being cold. He won't leave us out here in the cold. But it was in the summertime. So I don't know. And it's just that basically just those phrases over and over and over.
Just repetitious, and we often hear that with the Black Eyed Kids, or something like that. The one that got me too was it's almost like you hear a sonic boom, or something like maybe they're breaking through some kind of membrane there of the veil, or light in time or something.
A lot of times I've heard a pop before I would experience something. And Melissa Nicole that's there in the chat, she sent me a video today of something at her house that just after it happened, almost as it happened, where there was a noise like that. And then it sounded like somebody walking on the roof, but there's no way anybody could have been up there on the roof, the type of dwelling that she lives in there.
Wow.
So it was creepy, but it started out with like a popping noise like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all around us for sure. And people ask all the time, oh, you ever been in a haunted place? And I feel like saying, honey, you're standing in one right now.
They're all haunted.
They're all over the place. It's all over. But that was the main thing that I was thinking about today, is that feeling before you ever see it, and you and I have talked back and forth and tossed stories and just retell stories too, because, well, you only have so many personal experiences, and unless unless you're lying and you're making them up as you go along, you only have so many that you've had, unless you're having them regularly, in a active situation. But sometimes when we retell them, we learn more about them. Like I heard you speak to Conflict Radio about your Black Eyed Kids experience, and you had mentioned that where you kind of felt something before, you were kind of feeling before you ever really visually saw anything. I need to hurry up. I need to get out of here. And you had no reason to feel that way. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just that particular contract I was working on when I was wiring up, it was a breast center. And I would go in there after they closed in the evenings and was installing their computer network. They were going from dumb data terminals over to a PC at everybody's desk. So it was pretty involved. Probably took me about 8 weeks or something to do that. And trust me, it wasn't anything that I would normally get in a hurry. to get out of there because they were paying me $100 an hour, and this was back in 1990s money. So
Wow, good
that
stuff.
was great, So
Yeah.
never any hurry. Maybe a little bit after I was finished and ready to go home, but I kept my own hours, and I think I charged them port to port anyway. But yeah, that particular night, it's just like I know it didn't feel right out there, and
It's a feeling that overcomes.
yeah,
And if I remember correctly, you felt the same way about kind of sort of about the tree, but it was a lulling. And Pam Smith says here that Dave Politis said one of his hunters heard a noise like that before his friend disappeared. Now, I know exactly, I believe, the one that you're talking about. And it was in the movie Missing 411, The Hunted. And they were talking about this man, a hunter who lots of experience, even taught different hunting things, possibly survival stuff. I'm not 100% on that. And they did something where I believe maybe 6 hunters went. I might have the number off, but they just separated by so much. And then they all stood in a line and walked into the woods by themselves, walked in like 25 feet, whatever, or 25 yards, and then sat down and waited because the rest of the team was going to scare deer around and they were going to catch it there. And he was just sitting on a rock. And one of the ones that was close to him said they heard something. It sounded like a big steel trap. Whap, something that didn't belong in the woods.
That was the portal opening, probably yanking him through.
What sound does a portal make? Do portal make noise? I don't know, but that's nuts, right? Yeah. And you wonder if these people feel that feeling beforehand. And like I said before, you've had that feeling in the woods. I have, and I listened to it. The one time that I was up on Monticello Mountain in Huntsville, Alabama, very much where the book was centered around, the last book I wrote, Cabin 22. So I'm on this mountain and we're walking down the trails, and all the trails are colored, like the orange trail, the blue trail, the yellow, whatever. You know how long that trail is going to be and blah, blah, blah. We're going down the trail and all of a sudden I start getting that feeling. And it's like you take another step and it's a little thicker. It just feels, the air feels different. And it's like, nope, everybody gather up. We're backing up and going the other way. Like something is there.
And I've also noticed that it's like when those times when it goes really quiet, like all the air has been sucked out of a place. That's when you'll hear the pop usually, is when it's so quiet you can't help but hear just that. It makes it even more pronounced. Sometimes it's louder, bigger than others, but I think that's what it is something or whatever moving between one dimension and the next, or opening and closing a portal. I know at the Skinwalker Ranch, I can't remember the original couple that started having problems there. His name, but she claimed she was washing dishes once and she heard a pop sound, more of a sucking, like that. And she looked out the window, and there was like a portal open in the field, and she could see a guy sitting at a desk, like writing or doing something. And he looked up at her, and then the thing just closed with a pop. And so
done.
What on earth is that?
I don't know. And there was another one where, same place, Skinwalker Ranch, the one that got me and probably influenced some of the stuff that I had in the book, was one just like that, where it just opened up and then they saw this creature climb out of it and just go off about his business across the field, and thing closed back up, and that was it.
Yeah, I think it was sounded like a Wendigo or shapeshifter or something. It came out on 2 legs, and supposedly it had like a kind of a pissed off look on its face. It just came walking out and stepped out and kept walking. Like
that's crazy.
Business to attend to.
Yeah, and I don't know if that one said the popping sound. I'll have to go back over it and look again, but those sounds, I don't know if it has something to do with, the crossing of the dimension or going in and out, or if this is the type of sound that you get when you go up into something, because we often think that portals are right in front of us. I don't know why we don't feel like we're almost like we're walking through a doorway, but why couldn't they go up? Why couldn't they go down? We don't know. And in some of the missing 411s that you and I have talked about too, there's been someone on the phone when they were being taken. It was like a wind sound. And then they find this, no person, but they find the cell phone broken.
And another case like that where It sounded like somebody was being taken up. There was a wind and kind of a garbled sound, and then they found part of their clothing in a tree, like something had just pulled them straight up and out of.
And it caught on and maybe
here.
pulled off as it went. Yeah, that's crazy. But that feeling beforehand, and you had explained that it wasn't really a flight or fight. It was just flight. Get out of there.
Pure flight.
Just
yeah, it was.
Get out. Yeah.
Oh, the thing I've likened it to, my cousin Wendell had a boa constrictor that he fed mice to, and it wouldn't eat dead mice or frozen mice. It wanted to kill them itself. So I watched him feed it one time, and he puts the mouse in there. The mouse is running around, and then all of a sudden it just kind of sits up and it just froze. And it had sensed the snake. The snake hadn't even made an appearance yet. And sure enough, the snake comes crawling out, and the whole time the mouse is just there, and it was so scared it didn't even try to run. And that's kind of what this was. It was just the mouse didn't even offer to fight the snake. Of course, it didn't offer flight either. But that was the thing that I felt, that it didn't even occur to me that I had to fight these little girls, which I wouldn't have done anyway. But it was just get out of here, get out. That's all I heard in my head. Go.
I understand.
Go. And when I did finally get in my car and I had trouble getting it started, which is classic. And then when I finally did, I popped the clutch and went down through the lawn of the place. I didn't back out. I drove through the grass and jumped the curb and hit the road that way and didn't look back. Not then. And that was the other thing. On the way home, I'm racing down Pillsbury Parkway like 100 miles an hour. I was in my little Miata. And I'm literally looking back over my shoulder. It's like I'm thinking, are they behind the car? Or I'd look over in the seat, like, did they get in and I didn't notice? Just totally irrational stuff that I knew better. But I felt like I was going to look in the mirror and look over my shoulder and see them run along behind the car or hanging on to the spoiler in the back or something, just crazy stuff.
Right. And I mean, I've had the experiences myself, and a lot of times I've counted, and you and I have always talked about something an elder told me once about running it through your filters. Like, how do we know what's good, what's bad energy and things like that? It's basically run it through your filters, run it through your brain, your common sense in your brain, logically, then through your heart, and everything else that you have. You're basically your soul, your divine, whatever spark, your light, whatever. But your own filters, everybody's got their own. Everybody understands how information comes to them. I've had the one entity I know that's been around my whole life that speaks, and I recognize the voice when I hear it. I never know when it's coming, but it comes on the right side, outside of my head, in my ear. And then I have some that speak telepathically to me that have crossed over. And you and I have talked about it too, that I really don't hear them if they're not crossed over. I can't explain that. It must be a different frequency or something along those lines. What do you think there?
Yeah, I agree. House I lived in Las Vegas that had a lot of activity, I would hear like a whispering, but it was like an angry voice, and other people heard that too, but it sounded different to different people. Like, to me, it always sounded like an older man. And then when I was having a photo shoot there one night, two of the models heard it. They were sisters. They thought it was one of the other models trash talking them. It sounded like a female voice to them, but it was the same entity. I don't know if it could disguise its voice or if it just sounded different to different people or what the idea was.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, there is the manifestations of entities. Let's put it that way. Entities, and I'd say probably the lower vibrational beings, and then those that are just confused, that have learned how to mimic or how to change a voice or materialize. Even human goes materialize in different ways.
Yeah, you took the word out of my mouth. I was just thinking they've learned to mimic, and that's how sometimes it talks about familiar spirits and things that can that make you believe that it's long lost Aunt Edna or something like that. But it knows enough. That's why it's a familiar spirit. It's familiar with you and familiar with your family and your circumstances and things, and can do things to sway you or scare
Right.
you or make you do whatever.
Right, right. And also, that clicks something else with me as far as how insanely scary is that something can get into your mind and say maybe some of these entities that now I say entity meaning never was human. Let's just put it
Mhm.
that way, okay? As far as somebody else might say something different, but that's what I mean when I say it. Never human, and can get in there and play on your worst fears. We've all seen B and C movies that do that. Like, what's your worst fear? Like,
Mhm.
like the jinn like to play that game,
Yeah.
and things like that. That's creepy because it's inside your head. You know,
Mhm.
demons. A lot of demons and dark entities will do that too in your dreams. When somebody tells me I'm starting to have dreams every night about spiders or this or that, and I'm like, okay, what have you been doing? It's just like
Yeah.
constantly, because it's easy to get in there and mess around, and then before you know it, you start getting fearful to go to sleep, and you sleep deprivation, and I mean that's one of the worst things when you got to go to work the next morning, you can't go to sleep. That will mess
Mhm.
with your mind, and it's a psychological torture. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Hmm.
that's something that they do employ in actual torture and things. They keep people awake, for as long as they can to the point of hallucinating and stuff. And then when you're broken down to that point, I think
It
it's
weakens
real
you.
easy to enter your subconscious and put all kinds of more ideas in there.
Yep, it absolutely weakens you, and that's another way that it breaks you down. An entity that's negative, that is going to feed on your fear and your negative energy, and of course, if it can get you cranky, where you're fighting with somebody else in the house, and then the two of you are fighting, and then it can get in that one's dreams, and now we got a party. You know what
Mm.
I mean? That's how they feel. It's like wow, and that's how it breaks you down. But I'm wondering how it seems so wild to me to start thinking about how lore has lasted for so long. Like, I had hello to Pseudonym and Uncommon Belief in the chat. I had a wonderful show with a Pseudonym and Kiwi Patriot
I
the other
saw
night.
that the other day. I'd
Yeah,
always wondered what pseudonym looked like, and now I know.
beautiful people, beautiful,
Mhm.
smart. Oh my gosh, so intelligent. And we started talking. We were going to talk about vampires, but we got so deep into aliens and the Bible and human hybrids and Nephilim and Cherubim and all that. It was just we packed 2 hours,
Yeah.
so we'll have to come back to vampires. But to talk about lore of that, like how things last. Okay, they don't like garlic. Well, I don't know if it's true or not, but this is the lore: the crucifix, the holy water, the stake through the heart. Not through the head, but through the heart. Different things like that that last. And one of the things that was really big. More so, I believe in like the Lon Chaney and Bela Lugosi, and some of the other ones was the mass hypnotic um, way that Dracula got into these women's minds and
Mhm.
messed with them and drew them in. Another good one on that was Night Flyer. Same thing. They would get all dressed up like he's coming. He's coming. He's coming. I mean, that's a long term, long distance hypnotic control.
Yeah.
you know for them to, and I believe in some of the older ones, Bela Lugosi, it was the same, was it not? Or like they almost welcomed him when he came in through the window or whatever, however he got in. I can't remember. Sometimes he turned into a bat and the bat
Yeah.
would fly in the window and then it
Yeah.
would be him. I
Well,
remember
that,
those.
that goes back to there was a doctor named Franz Mesmer that he studied those theories, and he called it animal magnetism. Uh, that like an energy
Wow.
transference that occurred between animated and inanimate objects,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the term mesmerism comes from. To
Yes,
mesmerize somebody
yes.
is a form of hypnosis, and that was,
Mm-hmm.
I think, that was like back in the 1700s or something that he put
Wow.
that theory out there. And the more that came into the lore, the more people believed it. And I think you have people that once they hear about something, it just becomes part. When it becomes part of the lore, then it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of ingrained in their subconscious, and
Mm-hmm.
then they think, "Oh, well, I don't have any power over this because I saw this movie and I saw that movie and I read that book, and that's what you do. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
When the vampire comes to the window, you're mesmerized, you're hypnotized. You got to let him in."
Yeah. And then one of the creepiest, I'll never forget it. And I just watched it recently again, because when you watch something as a kid and then you watch it, later on, like 20, 30 years later, it's so different, but you catch things that you missed, But Salem's Lot.
I knew you were going to say that. The scene with the boy
You know
at the
me
bedroom
so well.
window.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that
Scratch,
is one of the most
scratch.
frightening
Oh, look,
things
I have a window
ever.
behind me. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Oh gosh, how creepy is that? And the kid, it just gets up out of bed and just walks like, oh, look, and I'm gonna open the. What are you doing? Stop! And you know who had an experience kind of sort of like that? Similar. What am I going to say now? The time I'm in the car and I see my mom reach for that handle, I'm like, "What are you doing? Don't open the door! Don't open the door!" You know what story that is? That's crazy.
That's the one, the thing in the swamp or whatever that she ran over
Dismal
and
Swamp.
thought it was under the car.
Oh my gosh! And I don't know if even that was some kind of a quick hypnotic. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what she was feeling. I just know how she was looking. It could have been stone cold fear. It could have been stone cold. You know what I'm saying? Just shock, because everybody's shocked when you hit something, especially if you don't see it behind you. But for those, should I tell a little piece of that story?
Yeah, go ahead. That's a great story. One of my favorites in that book.
The Dismal Swamp. I don't know how many in the chat have heard of the Dismal Swamp. It is just outside of Deep Creek, Virginia. I know it's changed now, but when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about it like 75. Okay. My mom's got this fantastic Mach 1 or Mach 2 Mustang. And the reason I mention that is because the dashboard on that looked like a park bench. And you didn't have to wear seatbelts and things like that. And my job was to lean forward on the dashboard, kind of looking to see if anything was going to run out of the woods, because there was lots of deer and multiple things that ran across this one road that we had to take to get from town to home. And the road was so narrow that you almost had to slow down when another car went past coming the other way, because there was very little room for two cars side by side, and the road just ended. There was no curb or banks or nothing. It just ended, and it was swamp. And my mother was always scared she was going to wind up in the swamp. She's going real slow. So we were only doing about like 30, 35 tops. And all of a sudden, I think what's coming, like a bear cub, maybe something along like that, maybe a bear running on all fours, black, solid, big body. And as I got closer, I thought, no, it's more like a hog, like a wild, big black boar. And we had hogs on the farm, so I knew what they looked like. I just never saw a black one. And as we're getting closer and closer to it, my mom's making all the mom noises, like white knuckling it, 10 and 2, going, something coming out, something. She's trying to slow down. And it seems like the car wouldn't slow down. And we just eventually hit it. And you heard the doo-doo, and as it was in front, it turned and looked at me. And I got a good look because, like I said, I'm up on the dashboard. I'm practically through the windshield myself. I'm trying to brace myself. And as we got closer, it was like a black boar thing. It didn't have hair. It was more like black elephant skin, like real thick, leathery, wrinkled skin. And its head looked like a boar until it turned. And when it turned and looked at me, it had like a goat face, and then it quick like morphed and made another horrid face with a horn and just horrible eyes. And the eyes were like reflected red, and the only thing it really didn't change, the shape of them did, but the eyes stayed red. But the face morphed as fast as I could do my hand. Watch this. Bam, 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 bam. That fast. And so you're only getting a glimpse of the things it's like changing. And then we hit. And the car, my mom slams on the brake. She stops. And she's looking in the rear view. She's looking to the side. And this darn car's got this lever back window, and you can't see through it. It's like Venetian blinds through the back window. So you have to kind of look and see. And then I'm pushed up against the side of the door, and I'm looking at her going, did you see that? You see that? Did you see? And I'm just repeating stuff like, and she's just looking. And then she reaches down. She says, where is it? The water isn't moving. The water isn't moving. Meaning she didn't think it jumped into the water next to us because it would have been rippling. So it had to be under the car. So the woman reaches for the door handle and starts to put her foot out. I'm like, no, what are you doing? Don't do this.
It's under the car.
Yeah. And I was just, I'm froze. I couldn't say a word. By this time, my breath had been stolen from me completely. And she must have read my mind or the squeals that were coming out of me incoherently and just pulled her leg in really fast and slammed the door and just put her foot on the gas and just took off. And it stopped again. And I'm like, what is she doing? Please. Oh, my God. And then she's looking in the windows again. She's trying to see behind it. And she's mumbling to herself, the water isn't moving. It has to be under the car. And I thought she was going to get out again. And she goes through. And then she thought better of it. Just slammed that foot down the gas. And we took off. And I think we made it home quicker than lickety split. I remember my eyes were closed so I could hear the gravel on the driveway, the familiar sound. And she got out. She looked around that car real slow. She told me, stay in that car. She got out. She looked and she couldn't find any damage. She got around to the front. She looked around and looked underneath the hood like she expected a big thing on the bumper. Yeah. And then nothing. And then she just put her hands down on the roof, just the hood of the car, and just started crying. Like it just upset her adrenaline wise so much. I never saw my mom cry, but it was so much of a mind screw. Where did it go? You know, it wasn't stuck under the car. It didn't get hit and bopped back in. I have no answers for that. And that face to morph that fast. And Steve told me one time when he heard this story, what if it was something like a creature that walked through a portal or, you know, a cryptid of some sort or a skinwalker that was trying to morph and like blink its way out.
Trying to change into something that a car wouldn't destroy.
Or trying to get back to whatever it was, like it panicked and like just if I changed my face, it was a horror face. I will never forget the faces that it was. You know, it was a pig snout or it was a part goat, part something else. It was horrible.
I've got a similar story in my first book that happened to actually my cousin and my uncle. They were driving from Scottsboro, Alabama to East Tennessee to visit my grandmother, following each other, you know, in two cars. And my uncle hit something in the road, something crawling across the road. He said that it looked like a big cat, like maybe a panther or something. It was black and oily, kind of wet looking. And it was in a swampy area. But my cousin, who was in the car behind him, it was his dad that hit it, said it looked like a man in a wetsuit crawling across the road. And they got to my grandmother's house, and there was blood all over the bumper of my uncle's car and down one side. And it actually shook them up enough to the point that they drove back that night to see if they had hit somebody. Mm-hmm. But there was no sign of anything there, no sign of anything off the side of the road or in the road. And my uncle said he quietly monitored the newspapers and stuff for a while to see if there was either anybody reported missing, or if anybody reported finding a body on the side of the road, and there was nothing. Ever about, you know, what in the heck was that? You
like
know,
somebody crawling in a wetsuit. That's creepier than a tiger from another dimension or a panther from another dimension, or like one of those black cat ones, you know.
So we got Sir Brian Bowden join us in the chat. Hey there. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Brian. Brian and I were going to do Dogmen and Wolfman, but he had a lot on his plate yesterday. So we will catch Brian on another date with that for sure. And the scariest thing I'm going to say tonight is, I don't know if you can see I'm swollen. Right here. I got dental surgery in the morning. Woo!
Fun.
Oh, God. I'm like, remember the good old days where they used to give you like a 10 milligram Valium before you got the chair and then a little gas, and then you didn't even like needle. Okay. You know, nobody cares. They don't do that anymore. Excuse me. Steve, could you read that comment there? That was really cool from Pseudonym. Can you see that?
Let's see.
It's up on the screen now. It says, I'm sorry, I thought I was going to have a coughing fit. Excuse me, guys. A friend who's a tour guide in New Orleans once told me that you can sense when you've crossed paths with a vampire, the same sensation of being in the same room with a tiger.
No.
Wow. Yes, I believe that.
That makes sense. That's a good analogy.
It is absolutely. So he shared it. Hi, Brian. How you doing, sweetie? So that's the thing.
You won't know
Can
where
we
it's coming
tell?
from, but that sense of danger rises.
Right.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
totally agree.
Yep. And can we sense when evil is coming? And I think we can for sure, because I've definitely done it, had it in my lifetime. And I think it is different with different things. I mean, you almost get that. To me, it's more of a pit of the stomach than the rise of the hair that comes after. But I can feel this in the center, like something that's just punched you right in the gut, knocked
Well,
your wind
it's
out.
like if you've ever been outside, like in the woods or outside anywhere really, and it's getting ready to storm or something, you feel that tension in the air. You feel that electricity,
Yep.
that whatever it is building
Yes.
up to, and you know it's going to be a real thunder boomer is what they used to call them in down south. And yeah, you could be outside and just feel the tension in the air when those big electrical storms were about to take place. And that's, I've had stuff happen during storms and stuff before too. That was,
Yes.
I think, something riding in on that energy. There was
Absolutely.
a lady that I knew there in East Tennessee. There was a storm blowing through, and it had knocked their power out. And they just had a candle lit, and just a few feet out from her, she saw what looked like a spider on a web coming down from the ceiling, and went all the way down. And when it touched the floor, the strand of spider web turned into the shape of a man and walked out of the room. And she had gone into the front room with her sister.
What?
And her sister was asleep. She wasn't going to disturb her, but she's sitting there with her mouth hanging open. And her sister suddenly sits up and says, "Did you see that?" So,
Wow.
what on earth? And that was the same night there was a tornado that came through the area, and there was an older man that lived in the neighborhood. They called him Pumpkin Bill. I have no idea how everybody has a nickname down south. But that was the night that Pumpkin Bill's house got blown away. He was actually in it, but he went out the window or something in it, and the house kind of imploded instead of exploded or something like that. But that was just, and I've heard people talk about that, a lot of old timers that talk about that weird storm that came through. I think it was like in 1961 or 62, but it was just part of the local lore there in Solway. Everybody that was alive back then knew about that particular storm, and a lot of people experienced strange stuff that night. Now, that reminds me of like a movie or something, like Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Right.
But
And
it really happened.
If you think about that movie, I absolutely love that. And there's so many people that I remember, that around our age group that just really took to that, because there was no, everything seemed to be, the scariest stuff seemed to be suggested. But if you think about it too, it kind of knew again, through your dreams, remember the wishes and stuff, and it took you over that way again. And it's crazy. It knew what you wanted, and it played on that, just like we talked about it earlier, the jinn. Vampires, I think they just, hypnotize you so they can lull you, very much like, a spider comes in and zaps you and it paralyzes you so it can have control over you. Similar, but that spider, what is it with spiders? I don't know how many shadow people I've heard that start as a small spider, that's crawling on the wall and gets in a corner and then starts to manifest larger,
bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Yes, and then becomes a shadow person. Oh, creepy!
And, one of the creepiest ones I heard of one time was a girl that had encountered a spider in her kitchen at night, and it started talking to her. And
stop it!
I've almost burned the house down just trying to get rid of a regular spider. I don't know what I'd do if I encountered a talking spider.
I don't know.
Run out the door, flip a match over my shoulder, and
for some reason, it's not as attractive as the dancing or singing frog. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Just like stop with the spiders, because no, me and spiders.
She said it was like asking her questions, like, what are you doing in here? What's going on?
What?
And I'm like, and she just
a trickster, probably
shook her up. She thought it was the devil, something satanic or something. She's like, I don't want to go to hell because I talked to a spider. She wouldn't answer any of its questions. He kept asking her questions.
I don't know. I knew get the shotgun. Lady, just
she was a friend of my mother's, and people, church knew her and stuff. She was not a lady to drink. She wasn't on any drugs or anything like that. Older widow woman, but she claims there was a
No,
spider in the corner behind her bread box, and it started talking to
that's incredible, Steve. That is absolutely incredible. Hard no.
her.
Hard no. I mean, I think I've practically tore up my house one night just because of a cricket, and it didn't say a word. But whatever those sounds crickets make, I'm standing on the bed screaming. My sons can verify this. This actually happened. I'm screaming on my bed. Now listen. You could break in. I'd wrestle a gorilla. I mean, I'd take on. I don't know. I'd jump in bar fights. I mean, I'm crazy. A cricket this big, and it got away, and I didn't know where it was. And I started thinking, I got to live in this room tonight with the cricket. So I'm screaming, and I got 3 boys of various sizes coming in their boxer shorts and God knows what else with shotguns and 9mm, everything else. Get the cricket. Just don't blow a hole in the floor. Really happened. Hand of God.
Back years and years and years ago, did you ever read any Carlos Castaneda? He was
that
popular
sounds familiar.
Back in the 60s, the teachings of Don Juan. He was like some sort of a Native American shaman, or that he was talking to the shamans or something like that. And I can't remember. He had several different books out, but there was one where he was trying to concentrate. His shaman had instructed him how to meditate and how to get into the zone that he needed to get into. And he kept having, he would hear cricket, and it would like shatter his concentration. And somehow he realized that it was the cricket it wasn't actually a cricket. It was like another witch doctor or whatever that was trying to interfere with his training and stuff from this one shaman. And the cricket was doing that to break his concentration and stuff. And you never think about things like that, but I have had crickets and birds. I've had birds that I was ready to go out and take a shovel to them or something,
because
right outside the window, tweet, 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 tweet.
Try to keep you. But, what about how many times are people in the chat that, you're talking about something, maybe something like this, or you're talking about, anything that might do with this realm, and all of a sudden out of nowhere a fly shows up and you think, what is this? There's not one of us who saw the Amityville Horror that didn't go in and see more than one fly in your house and think that you did. There it is. You go and start checking the windows, right, that they're not covered. But, they're used a lot in that, bugs, spiders, flies, all of that. Worms for sure. Definitely maggots. I don't know how many times you see maggots, in, whether they're putting the thought in your head, and it's not really there. But in the case of these bugs, they seem to be, because they'll call an exterminator and then they'll go in and there's like 200 or 300 flies everywhere dead. I mean, they really existed. So what's calling that and using that vibration? It just seems like that realm is very controlled by the negative side, because it knows that it's going to scare you.
Yeah, and it's like the insects, the animals, even they don't have a choice. I had a guy that I knew one time really well who was a deliverance minister, and he talked about a guy that he met one time that was demonically possessed, and he said there was literally like a cloud of flies around this guy, and that was, and then after they cast everything out of him or whatever, the flies were gone. So that's so weird, the flies or bugs, or in the vampire lore, it talks about the wolves. They'll howl, they'll try to back away and stuff, but they're captured by that mesmerization or whatever too. Watched in the movies. Again, it's just part of the lore. But even the wolves and things like that don't have any control over. They'll whine and cry and try to get away, but they can't, because they're held in that power too. And that goes back to the animal magnetism theory by Mesmer, who started all that. So
absolutely. And I think some of those things that I think there was a couple of I don't know, did you feel anything? I'm gonna ask about the ditch creature now that chased you. Did you see something first or feel something first, or did you hear it in the leaves? What was that? Can you go back to that?
Yeah, it felt weird in that area, but that's just the whole woods around that area felt kind of off, kind of strange. And later on I talked to other people that felt it too. When you got on the other side of the springs, an area we called the bottom down there was something off down there. And it turned out the ditch had been the dirt road to that area back to probably pre-Revolutionary War times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably during that war, during the Civil War, people were ambushed there because that was fresh water. There were 7 springs on that property that flowed out of hillsides into a bigger creek that went into the lakes. I think people would come there to get water, soldiers and things, and then, they'd be picked off because there was a lot of boulders and things around there, good hiding spots.
For snipers and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah, but the whole area felt weird anyway. But it was like I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know what. I just, when I'd walked up and like peered down into the ditch, and it's probably from the lip to the bottom, probably 12 feet or so. And I'm just kind of looking down in there like, nope, nothing to see here. And I'd turn to walk away, and then I heard the noise in the leaves.
Oh.
And I spun around, and whatever it was, it came up out of the ditch right where I'd been standing, looking down into it. But I couldn't see anything. But I could see the effect it was having on other things. Leaves were flying up 2-3 feet in the air. Branches and things were being moved probably 7 or 8 feet in the air or more. So I could see the effect it was having on it, but there was nothing there. And I know it wasn't the wind because it would have been the whole woods. This was just the path, and it was coming straight for me. So the first time I saw it, I was 8, and I ran screaming down the hill toward the house. I was about a quarter mile from home. We lived out in the country and had quite a bit of acreage. And my mom heard me coming. I was making that much noise that she was in the kitchen and stepped out on the back porch to see what all the fuss was about. And I think initially I ran past her and either hid behind the couch or under the bed or something. I just remember going inside and trying to get under or behind something. And then no idea what it was. When my dad got home from work, my brother had stopped by too. They went up there and looked around, and they kept saying, was it a deer? Was it a bear? And I'm no. Unless it was an invisible one, because whatever it was, I couldn't see it.
Right.
And they could see, where the leaves had been disturbed, it was a big disturbance, and where some of the branches had been broken and stuff. But just kind of forgot about it. And then 7 years later, I was 15 at that time, and we were getting ready to move from there. We'd sold that property, and we're moving into a new house a few miles up the road in the Carnes community. And I was just out walking around in the woods, kind of reminiscing. But I'd stayed away from that area since then. I did get one of my friends to go up there and stand by the edge of the ditch. He didn't know what he was doing, but I was using him for bait. I'm just like, I'm going to stand here by this tree, walk up there and see if you see anything in the ditch. And he's like, okay, just as a kid, that was probably maybe 9 or something. But couldn't lure it out. I mean, my dad, my brother went up there and walked all around. Nothing bothered them. So again, flash forward to 15, we're getting ready to move from there. And I'm just out kind of visiting my old childhood haunts because I played a lot in the woods and taught myself woodcraft and survival skills and things. And I walked back up there, and that was the first time I'd been since I was 8 years old. 7 years had passed. And I just kind of stood there at the lip of the ditch, and I thought, I wonder what that was, that scared the daylights out of me when I was a kid. And I just, I guess I'll never know. And then as I turned to walk away, I heard it, the same sound in the leaves. Sure enough, I turned around, I looked, something comes up over the lip of the ditch, headed straight for me. I can see the leaves flying up. I can see the tree branches moving. And I didn't run and scream and cry that time, but I didn't waste any time getting out of there.
Right.
Kind of fast walking stick, as they say, back to the house. Now then, a couple more years, let's see, probably 5 or 6 years after that, I was working over in Cedar Bluff at a restaurant, and somebody that I worked with invited me to a party after work. And it was one of those deals where I didn't know anybody at the party except for the person from work that invited me, and I didn't really even know them other than just from work. So it was nearby, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll stop by after work. So I get to this party, and so the only person I even sort of know was the guy from work. And some of the girls that were there had pulled a Ouija board out from under the host's couch and were messing around with it. So they decided they're going to go around the room and ask everybody questions. Well, when they got to me, I thought, I got a good one for you. And the only thing I said was, what scared me when I was a kid, with that incident in mind, but I didn't give any more information. I didn't lead on. Nobody there I'd never seen before except for the guy I worked with, and I'd never even told him that story. And sure enough, the Ouija board spells out WATERSPRITE, water sprite. And they're looking at me, and I'm just like, I don't know. And they're saying, well, maybe it's thirsty. It wants some water. It wants a Sprite or something. I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I filed that away, and then the next day I went to the library in Oak Ridge, and I went up to the reference desk, and I asked the girl, I said, what can you tell me about a water Sprite? And she's like, okay, I'll look and see what I can find. So I went and sat down at a table. I was looking at something else. A few minutes later, she brings over a little stack of books, and she's got stuff on like elementals and the Fae and the Celtic fairy lore and things like that. And she's opened at the pages. There's things called naiads and dryads, and I always get them mixed up. But one is a protector of the wood, the other is a protector of the water. But they're a Fae type being. They're essentially almost a cross between an A and a Fae and an elemental. But I think it's the naiad was the one that I'd ran into. But again, why did it not like me? Maybe because I was sensitive and could see it, or not see it but hear it, or experience what it was doing. But that's always been the question to me is, how come I was the one that it vexed? It did not like me or want me around. Now, there was all kinds of stories there in that area that there was supposed to be some gold coins that had been hidden in the trunk of a stagecoach and all kinds of things. I'd thinking maybe that it was something like that, because you've heard of that where people find treasure. A lot of times there will be a paranormal element to that. And I think that goes back to like the pirates, where they would sometimes kill a crewmate and leave him there with the treasure. That way his spirit was supposed to protect it from anybody that was trying to get it. But whatever it was, I never found any treasure or anything, but it did not like me being in that area. Anything else in the woods, I was fine. I was okay playing around the springs and down in the bottoms, but those bottoms had a feeling. If you're playing down there and it got dark, I would literally run across the little bridge that my dad had built there. And when I crossed the main creek and got back on the other side, it's like whatever made me want to get out of there, it stopped at the water. Supposedly that's part of the lore too, that ghosts can't cross moving water.
I've heard that as well. And Pseudonym says here, water sprites are malevolent creatures in lore. She's really good at lore and digging and origins and things like that. We definitely talk more about that. And also, here we go. Mr. Bowden here says, and this is why you should always sage yourself before going into the woods and before doing a paranormal podcast as well. Mine's going right here. Always have it going. And beforehand, because this is it. We're talking about energy. And also, we have Brian Bowden to thank for the sound being so nice and the pictures being so clear, and me being on StreamYard and being able to do this and have all Steve's wonderful face and Pseudonym and everybody on here, and soon to be Brian's too. So thank you again, Brian. We got him a little thing of rum that said it was Kraken that attacked New Jersey. So he took a little bit of New Jersey back with him. So we thank him again. But that's the thing. The feeling, and something's coming, something wicked this way comes, and we can feel it. And not only can we feel some of these things through our filters and our intuition, and I think stuff that everybody's been born with. Some of us are a little more tuned than others, but you're always going to find somebody who's more tuned than you. But I think we're born with that, being able to have that filter. And again, as I've said in other shows, don't talk yourself out of it, because I think my biggest one was probably, there's been some, you go into dark basements or get ready to go into somebody's house is asking for help. Can you come cleanse my house? There's been one time I think I started to head toward the door and I said, okay, this is bigger than I can handle. I'm going to need some help. And I didn't go in. I listened to it. What would have happened if I had? I don't know.
Jaws, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Exactly. I'm going to need a bigger stick of sage here and a bigger super soaker of holy water, probably. But, I remember that one eventually went in. It was a business, and I wasn't seeing too much going on in the front, as far as feeling stuff. I mean, I was feeling stuff that was low vibration, like maybe somebody was stealing a little bit here, a little bit there, from the till, that kind of thing. But as I walked past that and I got toward the back, they had some older furniture stacked up in one of the sides, like older office furniture. And I remember walking up to this desk, and as I got near the desk, I could feel something, really negative coming off of that. And as I stepped right in, I could start to see flashes of this person that was being sneaky and looking around and just up to no good, let's just put it that way. And it was little flashes, and I could only get like a little bit of what they looked like or whatever. And I said, do you know anything about this desk? And they said that it belonged to the guy used to be partners with somebody else and then changed out the business and became partners with his wife. And that partner had stolen quite a bit of money from him and had been doing it, through taxes and screwing with his accounting and stuff like that. So I'm thinking it's not even an evil that you could feel, but what sometimes you pick up as a residual of regular human beings that are just making bad choices and just kind of what you're really feeling is the breaking down by choice of a person's character and soul, basically selling little pieces of it, little at a time, with greed and power. And that's what I was picking up on. And so it doesn't have to be evil. It could, bad, and that kind of bad vibration that somebody's even causing themselves can put off a little bit of something. So I brought that up to tell if you meet somebody and you get a bad feeling straight off, I would just listen to that. Same as buying a house. One of the best ideas I've ever heard before anybody buys a house, bypass your real estate agent. The next person that walks through there should be a good medium. I mean, I'm not joking, because if I had a friend, like Kat Ward or Brian or you, or, and you guys felt something that I was feeling myself, I would put myself through that. Because if you're already getting it before you got in there and bring in your own weaknesses, cracks in your windshield, your own anger, your own whatever, and something's in there, it will press on that and keep pushing until it cracks it enough to get in, if it's that type of thing. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, and make sure there's no talking spiders in there either. hard no for me.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been in places like that. When I was in the market for a house years ago, there's places that just don't feel right. And something's happened there. There's a residual. Sometimes it's a strong feel. I was in one house where I found out later that the person committed suicide. But I knew the minute I walked in there, something ain't right here. And I was looking at it with a real estate agent, and I'm like, did anybody ever die in here? And she's like, well, I'm obligated to tell you the man that used to live here committed suicide in the back bedroom. And I'm like, okay, nope, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm. And you and I both know too, and speak for the chat, and you don't know who might watch this in the future. We always try to take it down, try to do the basic, because we don't know. All of this is theory. That's why we get to go together and talk, and it's theory based on experience. But Steve and I will both tell you, experiences that we had that we remember very clearly. There's few people that remember stuff clearer than we were 5 years old and happened yesterday, because we had so many profound experiences at young ages, and they progressed throughout our life. And if we look at something that was back, maybe happened when we were 8 or 9, 10 years old, and we saw it one way, and then we look back again 10, 20 years later and go, wow, take everything that you've learned through time and look back and go, wow, it was bigger than I thought. It may have been this, and this too. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of those was a snot hag for me.
Yeah, that's tell a little bit of that. I love that story out of the book that we did together.
Right before I do, Brian put in here that elementals are very aggressive and protective of their realms. Yeah, that's it. And how long have they been guarding those realms. So, a lot before we got here and probably long after we're gone. But, and, it's very possible. Steve has tossed around the idea that this snot hag was an elemental. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
possible. We
I
don't
think it
know.
was something that some sort of guardian, or
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just, but
All right. Yeah.
guardian of what, I don't know. But I think it was, for some reason, it didn't want you in the woods.
Right. Well, there was lots, and for the longest time, I thought it was because I sang a church song. And if it was evil, it didn't like that, really
Yeah,
ticked it off,
that
or
could
something
be.
along those lines.
Yeah.
But, you think, well, like, what was I doing? What happened? But the gist of it was, um, I'm in the living room watching cartoons, whatever. I gotta go. You go back because sometimes things scare you so much that you don't know how to deal with it. And this is my black-eyed kid feel, the same as Steve. This is the one that shakes you up a little bit when you have to pull it back out. So anyway, I'm in the living room, and we're in a bungalow, like a beach bungalow. My mother and I, it was perfect for us and a couple cats. We were cool. Our house, it was one of those. It was cute. And it had, because it was a beach bungalow, it had a lot of glass all around it, big windows, big, not just picture windows. I mean, like windows everywhere, because you wanted to see the ocean and all the blah, blah, blah. So I'm in the living room and I hear the screaming going on. And it's like, oh, it's just crazy. My mother's going crazy somewhere in the house. I'm hearing pots and pans and whatnot, chairs being knocked over, just a hubbub like crazy. And I get up and I go running in there, and she's screaming all these things. Don't let it bite you. Don't let it get you. Oh my God, I gotta get it out of that. It's just all this mom speak so fast over and over and over. And I'm going, what's going on? What's going on? Just, And then I realize there's a possum in the house, and it's a big one. It's a big one. And she's trying to get it to go out the door because neither one of us want to hurt an animal. We're just that way. We'll go to all odds not to hurt the animal, carrying spiders out, that kind of thing. We're those people. And so anyway, she's like, now she's worried because I'm in the room. Now she's mama bear because she doesn't want me to get bit. So she's like, get up on the chair, open the door, do it. And I'm like, I can't do it all at the same time, Mom, So we're running around like nuts. And the possum's running around the house, and she's trying to get it out the back. I'm trying to get it out the front. Finally, it runs in the bedroom, and she goes in the bedroom with it. She's got a shovel in her hand. And she goes right in the bedroom, and it got real quiet. And I'm standing by the open door, and I'm just feeling like oh my gosh, because I don't know what's going on. So I'm already adrenaline ridden. So if this thing needed energy, it had it now. Is why I'm mentioning it, because they feed on energy and that kind of adrenaline. So there's something else. So anyway, the possum didn't make it. She comes out of the bedroom and she's got a pillowcase, and the pillowcase has got this stain of blood running across. And I'm like, oh my God, now she's upset, hair hanging down in front of her face. And she's just showing it to me. And she's like, she doesn't want me to see it, but she doesn't know what to do. And she didn't want to hurt this thing. So we're like, oh, okay, well, we got to go bury it. So she's still got the shovel, and we're like, yeah, okay, we take it out back and bury it. So we go out into the wood line, just inside the wood line, and she digs a hole, and I'm just a little kid, So we put it in the hole. I could see she was still upset. I said, I got the rest of it, Mom, because now I've got 2 sticks, and I took a ribbon out of my hair. One of those puffy old knit things that were the big fat yarn that was big in the 70s. And I took that out, and I wrap it up, and I make like a cross for this possum. I know, I was a little kid. And I stuck the cross in the thing, and I started singing in this. I didn't really know any prayers by heart at that age. I started singing a Sunday school song, about animals and all this other stuff that was, really cool. And I started singing it, and I feel this evil. I just, no other way to describe it. It was just this heaviness and this thickness and this electricity and this just everything probably that mouse felt when it recognized the snake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I just kind of froze. I kept singing, but my voice changed. I was getting lower and lower, and I'm kind of looking, out to the side and trying, where is this? Like, is there somebody behind me? And I thought, it's like, it's not my mom, because she walked in the house and I can see her through the kitchen, and she's getting a glass of Chianti, and she started to drink this wine like, oh my God, what just happened? And I remember looking at her, and out of the corner of my eye in front of me, I see this woman. Now this woman has got if you were to say, picture an old witch, an old hag, that was her. Long, black and gray, white, streaky hair with leaves stuck in it and things stuck in it. And I could see it was all the way down to like her waist. She's wearing multiple layers of clothes, all dark colors, like a burgundy torn skirt over a black, gray, dirty thing, and just layers of clothes. Like everything she owned was on her, and the shawl. And the shawl she had on had leaves and stuff. So I thought the woman fell, is why I mentioned the leaves. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, there's an old woman here. And she's, first thing I thought was whatever's bad's going to get her too. And she has fallen. She's obviously hurt herself. This is what's going through my head. And then I look up and the way she looked at me, and she's standing there, Steve, and she's doing this like kind of look, with her hands down to her sides. And she's just splaying her fingers like this and then just making it was crazy. And I looked down because I didn't want to see her anymore. And then I looked back up again because I was hoping she'd be gone. But she wasn't gone. She was closer. And I didn't hear a word. I didn't hear a word, not a sound, not a rustle, not a stick snap, not a leaf toss. Nothing. Not a word. Now, I'd been hanging out with my granny. So I'm Native American thinking, you're in tune when you're around the woods. You're listening for stuff like that. You're listening for the animals. There's no animal sounds. There's no sound from her walking. And I just like, that can't be real. What's going on? I look up again and she's closer again. Now she's kind of half behind a tree and she's got this face, making a fist with her face. She's just ugly, just terrible. But then I noticed she's got this long green stream of snot hanging out of her nose. And when I say long green stream, I mean this thing is hanging down and she's moving. From the movement, it's swinging.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, the thoughts going through my head, that's not right. Boy, she's sick and she fell down. I'm a little kid. I'm thinking, what's going on here? And I can't move. My legs, I'm like, I got to get away from this woman. I got to get help. I'm like, nothing. No mom, nothing. No sound, just like comes out of my mouth. Finally, I put my head down and something broke. I don't know what happened, but I could feel my legs and I just turned and I start running. Now I run into the screen door into the kitchen. Probably talking as much nonsense as she was talking a little while ago about the possum, right? And I'm like, there's someone. And I'd lean up against the glass. I slam the door and I'd lean down. I slide down and land on my butt. And I'm just like, there's a lady out there. She's going to get me. She's going to get me. She's got snot. She's just ugly. And I'm just doing kid stuff. And now she's had a couple gulps of wine. She's feeling a little bit better. She's like, it's okay. You're just upset about the possum. There's nobody out there. She's like, she went all Donna Reed on me. She's just like, it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. It's a beautiful day. And I'm like, there's a woman out there with snot. Anyway, I'm little kidding it. And she looks out the window. And as she leans over and something snapped in my head. As she leans over me to look out the window, I'm thinking, oh my God, this door's all glass. Oh my God. I get up and I take off and I run to the living room and I dive into the couch, cover myself with pillows, probably the cushions on the couch, hiding myself, thinking, oh my God, this woman, And then my mom starts doing her little thing again. For all those in the chat that don't know who Donna Reed is, she was just this well put together lady, never hair out of place, in heels, and can't go through anything, right? So she's walking in the living room, looking out the window. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see any woman. And I'm thinking, okay, it's over. The lady's gone. Maybe my mom's right. There's nobody out there. It's all cool. And I get up out of the couch and I pull back the cushions and look in between. And my mom's just hanging out the window, glass of wine. It's like, it's, everything's fine. It's wonderful. I don't see anybody. And I said, cool. So I get up off the couch, jump into the chair next to my mom, this cushy chair, to look out the window with her. And there's the woman standing right there next to the tree, not 12 feet from my mother, looking right at me, and gives me this kind of look like, I know you see me. She doesn't see me. I lost it, ran to the bathroom, slammed the door, and stayed there for hours. But that was the moment I realized not only could you feel evil coming, but sometimes you can see evil that other people can't see.
Yep.
Pop. How about that one?
That's a great story. I love that. That's just the descriptions that you use there with the big string of snot swinging back and forth.
It
You know,
was
it's
like,
just like, oh, it's so disgusting.
it was the typical, like, I'll get you too and your little dog, you know.
Yeah.
It was just creepy, like she was putting it on creepy. And you know, your mind is trying to process, your 10-year-old mind, whatever, 8-year-old mind, whatever, is trying to process this. She's looking right at her, she can't see her, you know. And I don't know, I think, I always believe my mother had abilities too, and kind of shut him down because it wasn't something it wasn't groovy back then to do that kind of thing, you know. Just because being Native American was bad enough, you didn't want to go around and start going, oh, there's a dead guy standing next to you, you know. I think she probably shut it down, if you know, at all, but I tend to believe she did. But she couldn't see her. And then we moved, and we went through all that stuff, went to Virginia, and of course the Dismal Swamp stuff happened and other things happened, and then my mom had passed. And then I wound up being taken in by my aunt and uncle. So now I'm back in Belmar, back where I was living when I saw the snot hag. And I'm standing in the window, Steve, my hand to God. I've got this little room on the second floor, and a little window that I could see out. And I'm like, okay, you know, you're trying to get yourself together. You just went through a lot. Basically, you're an orphan in a strange place now, you know. But you got it. You can make this work. You know, you're going to go to school. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're trying to put your life back together. And I'm looking out this window. I'm like, I can do this. And then I'm looking out the window and look over her fence. And then I look through the woods and off to the kitty corner, you know, through the woods. And I see this bench along this little coral colored house with all these windows. And I realize that I'm on the other side of the woods where I lived. And that snot hag is in those woods, and I'm back.
Thought you had gotten away from her. You're just on the other side of the woods. Now, did you ever get any insight as to what that was, or why it was in there, or if it had anything to do with the possum?
I don't know. I mean, like you and I have talked about it. Maybe, you know, it was something, you know, like a wood nymph or an elemental of something like that, and was trying to protect the animal and was angry about that. It might have been something that was just lingering by, a low vibrational being that picked up on all of the adrenaline and energy and fear. And it was like, ooh, give me some of that. And kind of that drew her.
Yeah.
Maybe she was in the woods and none of that bothered her. But what pissed her off was the church song. Because I'm singing about, you know, Jesus and God and animals are cool and all this little cute stuff that I'm singing. But it was still, you know, like a hymn, you know. I don't know. Maybe that ejected the anger. You know, I don't know. But I felt her out there talking about feeling evil. Through high school. Now I'm older and I'm on this other side. I can tell you, there was one time we were out there playing frisbee with my cousin, and I missed the frisbee and it overshot me and went into the woods behind me. I'm like, you're gonna have to get that frisbee gone, baby. I ain't going in there. But isn't that a trip? Oh, here's Heather. Hey, welcome in, Heather. She says, I know these feelings and perceptions. My mother was also in denial about her abilities. So when I tried to tell her what I saw, heard, smelled, and perceived by my mind, my mother blew it off. Yeah, same thing. And I think that happens to a lot of people, especially in my generation, because now we're going back 50 years, see? And we didn't talk about it then. You blew it off. But I'll tell you, my grandma's talked about it, and they warned me. We talked that on the other time, Steve, and we also found out why I was being taught to run without shoes, because you never know when you're going to need to run barefoot. And they knew that's something else. I mean, of course, the grounding and stuff like that too, but they were always really big on toughening up your feet, you know. So, wow, it's just that stuff when it hits home like that can be really spooky. I mean, yeah, it's spooky to hear, like in Monsters Among Us. What is her name? Linda. She's very big on the, I got to get her on the show. She's fantastic. She did Monsters Among Us and a bunch of others, but she did a lot of stuff on the werewolf. And she told that story. You'll know it when I tell you.
Yeah.
There's a story with a little girl and a little boy. Her mother went to the laundromat. They got a ball or something, or some Nerf football, something. Went outside to play in the parking lot, right? And while mom was folding clothes, and out of the manhole comes this guy that's with a lantern, that's dressed like probably 1700s ish, and big, kind of like a pirate type blouson blouse shirt and a vest, and the velvet vest with the little pocket thing, very well dressed. And he's looking at the little girl who has come to get the ball closest to where this thing's coming out of the manhole cover, and like almost like it's coming upstairs, and just here I am with this lantern, and she can see the top half, and he knows her name. And he starts talking to her, and it's okay. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Starts lulling her into this. And she felt very hypnotically like she was going into a trance and was being pulled toward this guy, till her brother broke the spell and pulled her away. Do you remember what I'm talking about? That's creepy.
Yeah. Linda Godfrey's the one.
Thank you.
I had to look it up on my phone.
Me
here,
too.
so.
It was right there. It was right there. It was fantastic. Yeah. If you haven't read that book, it's called Monsters Among Us. Great. And Brian Bowden also has a lot of information too on, he's more like the Dogman and Cryptid and UFO, but man, he's my go-to for Dogman information. I was talking to him a lot when I was writing Cabin 22, because, you got good friends where you can call them up. It's 10 o'clock at night and you go, okay, in a fight, who would win, Dogman or Bigfoot? And they don't laugh. They just answer your question.
Yeah.
That's the greatest ever, But we got friends like that, don't we, Steve?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's wonderful to have. Man, I can't believe we talked almost an hour and a half tonight. We're going to try to do this every Monday.
Try to do this weekly. I love it, and come up with something different every week, and maybe suggestions from the chat, or you can hit us up on Facebook through the week and let us know what you'd like for us to talk about on the next show, or just anything paranormal.
Yep, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to do this 8 p.m. Most of the shows that I'm doing are going to be 8 p.m. I'm trying to work it out with my job, and, that I'm getting people from the UK and New Zealand and Australia and stuff like that. We're trying to hit different times, but I've got Bill Bean committed to come back on, and he's going to be talking about Bill Bean stuff. If you don't know who Bill Bean is, go back and look up The Haunting and multiple other TV appearances he has. The story of that man, talk about knowing evil.
Yeah.
And walking into the room when he's seeing his mother thrown around the living room, and this kid at like 11 went to his room, got a jar of holy water and a Bible, and came out and battled unseen demons to save his mother's life, man. And he hasn't stopped since. So there's so many wonderful people that are coming on. We got Mark Shaw next week too. He's going to be talking about the death of Marilyn Monroe and people he think that might have been there.
Dorothy Killen and all
Kilgallen.
Couldn't think of her name.
Oh, so fantastic. He's written a lot of fantastic books. So, and Brian's going to come on and talk about dogmen and creepy things that might be living under your bed. And I'm excited to do this, Steve. I can't thank you enough for coming in.
Absolutely. I hope everybody will like, share, and subscribe. And we need to get Cisco to 1,000 subs.
Oh gosh, I would appreciate it so much. It's been a long haul. I mean, I've been actually on YouTube for years, but I was on Under Conflict Radio, and then a Conflict Radio got hit, and all the shows he had on and was just doing on YouTube, everybody got dropped, and we lost everything. And then I had to go back and redo, and then I put them all up at the same time. So there's a lot of videos on my channel that are good. I love Truly Ghostly, the first one, which is just all ghost story, true ghost story types of ghosts, and then 2 true accounts that go with each one, like whether it's a residual or intelligent haunting, or that's a great one in episode 1, and a lot of people are missed that. And this right here is going to be our fun night, Monday Madness, and we're going to do questions out of the chat. So what we'll do is like a half hour before, and then we'll start hitting chat suggestions, because we had some great ones last time. Stairs in the middle of the woods and all these different things, and all the intelligence here in this chat.
Yeah. I actually had some people contact me about that, and they said, I'd always thought that those were fake until I heard you guys talking about how they could possibly be real and what they would be used for.
Yeah.
And why that the people that are debunking it are the same people that won't tell you the truth about UFOs and things.
Right.
So
Right.
there you go.
There you go. And
you
that's the
never
thing.
know what's going to pop out. None of that was planned. This is all just spontaneous and off the cuff. And that's we're both pantsers. We like to fly by the seat of our pants and just take anything that's flung at us and see where it goes.
Yep. And a lot of times you'll tell me, I don't know, and then we try to go find out about it. Or we get somebody on to talk about it, because there's experts that have gone down different rabbit holes here, So it's going to be wonderful. We're going to have Pseudonym and Kiwi on as regulars too. They were on here the other night talking about cyber attacks. You want to talk about something scary. So, and they're happening. It's like every day, so it's crazy. But, I think there's a level of this stuff that's, maybe all connected, maybe not. But one thing we can say, there's definitely good and there's definitely bad. And if there's, yin and yang. And boy, if you can get your filters tuned to see it before, it'd be great for dating.
Wouldn't it?
It'd be great for buying a house and everything else. Just get a little more in tune with your own feelings and don't talk yourself out of it. If you're going to get on that elevator with somebody and everything in your body says don't get on the elevator, don't get on the damn elevator. Don't get on the elevator, So
thank you there, Pseudonym. I appreciate the kind words. I enjoyed watching you and Kiwi the other night on the show. Always wondered what you looked like, and now I know.
And it's wonderful. That's why this is really wonderful. And you got the chat live and you got us live and, putting that in there. And it is just coming off. That's why we wrote the book like we did. People say, why did you write why not? To just write a chapter and then have him read it and then have him put all his anecdotes and stuff that off the cuff that it reminded him of. It's what we're doing tonight too. So that's kind of how we are.
Exercise in humility for me too, because I had to really rein myself in because I didn't want to overshadow what you said.
Yeah.
But then by the same token, I didn't want to just say, what she said up there either. So I had to find that fine line, strike a balance of where what I actually want to say that might be important and, not draw attention away from what you said. I didn't want to overshadow you in your own book, but I think it turned out perfect. I think
it did too.
It could have been any better.
I think it did too. And we're probably going to wind up doing a second one right after we get, I know I'm going to release The Cabin as a book, and I'm hoping to have that out by October and probably have the audio with it. At Brian's suggestion is just go ahead and put the Theater of the Mind that I did all in one thing and do that as an audio book because, man, those voices and stuff like that. I'm telling you, chat, I want to say I wrote Cabin 22, but I really think the characters wrote it because there was some surprises in there.
I think there was some automatic writing or something guiding your hand there through some of that.
Yeah, with Skeeter and
not that you're not capable, but it just you didn't even know where it was coming from. You didn't know what was going on until it happened.
When I was writing about the moonshiners being in that cave and the rats and the psychological connection that Skeet had with the rats and the way the rats messed with his mind, it was just that whole kind of a Moby Dick kind of thing, where good old Buck, that big old rat, just had him wrapped around his finger. I mean, it's just like he'd kill himself to get that rat, very Moby Dick-ish, the way it was. So, all that stuff. And I just go back and read it. And I'm like, wow.
There was a lot of Moby Dick. I mean, I was just waiting for him to yell at the rat, from hell's heart, I stab at thee. It's like, it was that type of relationship.
It was. And it really took him over psychologically. So there's a lot of that going on. And there's a lot of energy stuff going on. And there's a soul collector in there, and that's one of the things. If anybody ever asks me what scares you the most, one, I'd rather not be a ghost. So if I could prevent that, that would be cool. It seems like a lot of wasted time wandering around the dark trying to get people to listen to you. That seems frustrating to me. And then probably the one that's most of all is the Soul Reaper. I don't know how many times I've known people that says you can't stay here. If you stay here and you die, he has you. He's going to have you. You have to leave. You have to get it off. You have to have an exorcism to release that attachment. And I know that sounds crazy just being spit out like that, but there are entities in this world that were never human and that are ancient. And, if you're going to, be in that person, that thing's atmosphere, you're going by its rules. And if you don't know the rules and you don't want to fight for that, the best thing to do is get out, because you're not going to beat something ancient like that. The best thing to do is just back off. I think that's why a lot of sour soil, as Native Americans would call it, or dead earth, or all the different devil names we've heard about different things, where they, it'll have some wonderful. Now I'm Native American, so I can say this, but it'll have some long Native American name, and basically you get it translated as just like, dumbass shouldn't be living there, or something along that line. It's like, it just means that it's just everything that is alive. If nature doesn't want to live there, you probably shouldn't be either. Just saying. That I can't get past these people who would say, well, the dog never wanted to go in the basement. So, what really, like, you take him down there, it was crazy. He'd run right back up the stairs, howling like he saw something. I'm like, what do you need? An iron pan to hit you upside the head, you dumb, It's like, so, listen to nature. We can learn from nature. We obviously learn from each other. That Steve and I learn from each other every night. And I can't wait to do this again with you, brother. I can't believe that was an hour and a half. Tell everybody where to find you, honey.
My books your channels are on Amazon, and wherever fine books are sold, as my publisher likes me saying, for the paperbacks. Strange Things in the Woods, My Strange World, the book that Cisco and I did together. We're All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife, a guided tour through a haunted life. And then my latest book is National Park Mysteries and Disappearances, Volume 1, The Great Smoky Mountains, Volume 2, California, including Joshua Tree, Yosemite, and Mount Shasta, will be out about the middle of August. Wow. And channel-wise, the 13 Past Midnight is my personal channel. I do ghost stories at midnight and just some fun things over there, just kind of fiddle around with my core followers. And then over on Missing Persons and Mysteries, that's the big channel. We're rolling up, got almost 95,000 subs over there. So we're really excited. We're planning something special for the month of August. We should have 100,000 subs by then. We're going to have some guest narrators come in, some bigger names from YouTube, and some other people too. But be a lot of fun over there. If you have any interest in missing persons, missing 411 type stuff, come and check those videos out. Bill does such a good job putting those together. We've got a staff of about 5 writers, I think, now, that I love. There's nobody else I would rather have put words in my mouth than the that we have writing for us. So
it's really well done, very well done. And I'll tell you something else. The Missing 411 with David Ply is very interesting, because he just does clusters, and each clusters of missing. Basically, the cluster is a bunch of missing people from one spot, and then it'll be another one and another one, another one. And it's great, but they have to follow a certain criteria, that very tight criteria to get in that cluster. Steve and Bill's channel deal with a wider variety of missing. Like, they'll have like strange and odd disappearances, but they'll also have like a disappearance like lately, where that young man was in the woods for 9 days, and then he was able to talk about it.
That was some story, that Andrew Devers. I'm trying to get a hold of him to get him on as a guest, but so far I'm not having any luck. But he's just such a cool guy. If you watch that video and listen to him, he's got that whole hippie vibe. Every other word is like. But he's just he's so endearing, you can't help but love him and pull for him. When he's telling about being lost out there in the woods.
You could tell he's telling the truth. He's just telling it like he saw it, and he had some experiences there where, like, he was kind of out of it and lured off the trail, and I'd love to pick his brain. And
he said he didn't recognize anything, and he wandered in the woods for 9 days, and he heard voices. He would hear people calling to him from across the river. He could see the search and rescue teams, but they couldn't see him. He'd like yell and wave and stuff. And when he did finally make it out, a couple of hikers found him, and he was less than 2 miles from where he'd started from.
It's crazy.
After 9 days, and was right by the trail that he had initially had disappeared. So there's some woo-woo in there too. There's some strange circumstances, but it's still a riveting story. We like to do the true tales of survival like that. We also feature currently missing people that have just gone missing, sometimes within the past day or two or a week or something. Try to give it just a little bit of room, because a lot of times people show up. But one of the statistics from NamUs.gov, over 600,000 people go missing each year in the United States alone. That's
Alone.
a lot of people. And I said in one video, that's enough to fill several football stadiums, or more than enough to empty the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When you
Absolutely.
think about that many missing people, where are they? I mean,
Where are
right,
they?
there's murder, there's human trafficking, there's all sorts of things, but then there's a percentage of those that they never find a body, they never find a clue, no trace of them whatsoever. It's like they simply just went up or went in the earth or disappeared. It's
And in
fascinating.
some cases, like their stuff, left behind or neatly folded on a log, or they'll find a skull exactly where they
In a place that
searched
they've
100
already
times.
searched, yeah.
Yeah, 100 times. Like they stepped over that log and it wasn't there, but there would be the skull and the clothes and maybe
It's
a tooth,
like
maybe a
something
tooth.
is
Crazy.
sort of
Messing
rubbing
with
it
you.
in their face.
Yep.
Where they find a body maybe within a few days of the person being deceased, but in an area that's been searched multiple times, that they know there was no body there. I mean, just right off the trail sometimes.
And we know people are being taken, whether it's the Eisenhower, treaty where, they traded, you can use our people as dolphins or whatever you want to test them, take as many as you want, as long as you give us this technology. I think that's a great possibility. And we're going to get into that deeper on another.
That was supposedly the thing that Eisenhower signed some kind of deal with the aliens in exchange for technology they could experiment on people.
So poof, there they go, right? And just imagine you just being sold like basically like cattle, traded for ray guns and and invisibility or something. But I don't put it past them. It's very possible. I just hope they they don't take me. I
Melissa
mean,
Nicole says, "Great show, thank you, Melissa." She's one of my folks. She's one of the Stocktonites, where we consider ourselves like a kinder, gentler Manson family. Not really. I said that one night on a show.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, boy, that was something too.
But,
I mean,
I do love all my followers. I've got a lot of people that love me and that love my voice. It's almost like a ministry or an undertaking or something. A lot of people that listen to me are people, chronic pain sufferers, people with PTSD, people that have insomnia. All these people are drawn to me. They say that my voice relaxes
like ASMR. Yeah.
And they like listening to me talk. So, and
I'll
I've had people apologize. I love listening to you, but you put me to sleep. I'm sorry. I'm like, no, if that works, that works. Whatever works for you.
It happens to my family all the time. Every time it's like, man, I was listening, I just fell asleep. I think when you have kids and you read to them, that's all you got to do is
Cisco, you can put me to sleep. Well, I know when we were working, you're having to listen to the Cabin 22. I doze off every time.
Yep.
But I've put myself to sleep. I was sitting here yesterday editing some audio that I just recorded. And I'm sitting nodding off.
It's like funny.
It's a computer.
It's just a vibration, I guess. Maybe we're putting a little love vibration too. Everybody feels comfortable and they just feel it falling asleep. But hey, if you haven't seen Cabin 22, you got to catch it now, because I'm telling you, I think October I'm going to pull the videos down. Just when I put the book out and the audio. But right now I redid the audio, so it goes from the cabin. It's on my channel right here where you are now, and it starts with the cabin is the prequel. Then it has parts 1 through 6, and I did video with it, but I did it like a theater of the mind. There's only a few pictures in there, and and some drone pictures and things like that gets you into the mood of things, but I don't show you the people. The only thing you see is the rage.
Like 10 hours long, 14
about
hours
14
long. Yeah,
about 14. It's like a good long audio book, but I did it
invest
like
the time in it. You won't regret it.
I did it like the old Mystery Theater, so I had to do all the voices, and I'll tell you,
some cliffhangers.
Some of these voices,
and you did amazing, right? And you were consistent. I mean, I could tell when the little boy was talking, or I could tell when Tater was talking. You became the character when you were doing the voice for him.
It's like they lived. They really lived. I had people cheering on Tater. Oh, poor Tater. What's going on with Tater? You got to tell me what's going on with Tater.
He's the perfect anti-hero.
Oh my goodness, right? There's so many, there's everything. There's moonshiners and dogmen and Bigfoot and aliens and Native American and energy and
ghost children, haunted playgrounds.
Your dead children, and soul. There's a soul collector in there. There's portals and orbs and ghosts and you name it. There's all kinds of stuff.
The most personable rat since Ben, if you remember.
Yep, old Buck, man.
And what was the other one? Willard. Yeah. Willard was the guy, I think. Ben was the rat.
You'll be cheering for old Buck for sure. If you never thought you'd cheer for a rat, you're going to cheer for this one. So it was pretty cool. It's got pinup models and moonshiners, and it's like everything, right? So I love you so much, my friend. It certainly has been Monday Madness tonight. And again,
I love it. Got
thank
a
you
reason
to
to look
everybody.
forward to Monday now for everybody.
There we go. And everybody in the chat for coming in and sharing and hitting that like. I appreciate y'all so, so much. And like I said, we're going to do this, and then throughout the week, we're going to have some other ones, but they'll always pretty much be at 8 p.m. So if you're out there, just look for the signal, and I'll be on Steve. Steve will be on mine. And, it's one big happy family. And I couldn't thank y'all enough for being here tonight. Thanks for coming here to get some of your booze.
And pseudonym, thank you for putting the links in the chat.
Yes, thank you so much to the mods, the best mods in the world. And I thank to Uncommon Belief and Pseudonym and for always being in here. Thanks to all the new people that come in. I hope you'll come back. We love you. So keep your feet under those covers and keep your closet door shut, because there are things that go bump in the night. Good night, everybody.
Indeed. Good night. Thanks again, everybody. My people that came over, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Tell the others so they'll come next time too. Tell them what a good time you had over here. Otherwise, everybody have a good night, good day, good morning, good evening, good Lord, whatever it is, wherever you are. Have a good one. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time.
Stay scary, people. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cisco. Bye-bye.
Bye, honey.